Hi, welcome to the Property Show. I'm Jayashree Kurup, I'm editor MBTV, and I have with me Anuj Puri. Anuj, welcome to our show. We're talking about a market where property prices have gone down and investors have more or less exited the market. Is this a good time for investors to make a comeback? And if so, how?
So first of all, Jayashree, delight to be here. I've known you for over 20 years and fantastic to come on your show. I was looking forward to participating. So thanks for inviting me and having me here. Is it a good time given that the property prices are down? I think for an investor, it's always a good time, Jayashree. What is not a good time today is for a speculator. So, we have to differentiate between the two, speculator and an investor. In my opinion, investor who's got a mid to long-term horizon, perhaps the best time, given where the property prices are today, I do believe is that most of the developers who are selling at this price are not making money. So, it is really below their cost that they are selling.
Are you talking only affordable housing or across the board?
Across the board, Jayashree. Across the board, I think affordable housing still has a lot of traction, and we are seeing investors in affordable housing coming in and buying inventory. We're also seeing in many micro markets, investors have started to come in. For example, in Hyderabad, in a big way, those investors have started to come in. But my opening comment was largely for the non-affordable, mid-level, premium luxury. Yeah. Although, as an investor, I am not very keen to get into that premium luxury. It's probably still for the end users, but in the mid-level, and as we go through the show, I can define what the mid-level is. Yeah. I think it's the right time for the investors to get in.
How does an investor decide when to enter the market? Under construction, ready to move in, and how long should he remain invested?
So it's a very, very interesting question. A lot of people, try to understand at what stage is it best to get in. I think different times will suggest at different stages you get into as an investor. Today, if you were to ask me, it is either at the time of the launch, when the developer really brings in very attractive schemes and very attractive pricing, or once it has got completed. I would say those are the two markets. But if you were to rewind it 4 or 5 years ago, it was during construction and during launch, it was the best time. The moment the property was getting completed, it was becoming really very expensive. Yeah.
Today, that's not happening today, right?
It is not happening. Two reasons for that I'm saying is that today it is attractive to buy completed properties. One, there is no GST. Yeah. It's a big thing. It's 12% off. In that is on affordable housing, 8% off in that is. And the second is that clearly where the finished stock is today versus where it is on construction, there is no price escalation that has happened. Plus also, Jayashree, there is no risk of completion, approval, these are completed with occupation certificate. So it's a lot more comfortable for an investor today to buy that.
In residential property, the classic problem is that we get 1.5% to 2% returns. Yeah. While you're holding a property, how does an investor know whether 1.5% is good for him?
Yeah. And I think that is a classic question, and that's where most of the investors would say, Jayashree, we're not sure we want to invest in this, is 1.5%, 2% is what we get, versus commercial where we get 8-9%. So if we have to invest in property, then we would rather invest in an office space and get 8-9% than a residential. But if you were to do the summing of capital appreciation and the rental return, Jayashree, it'll come about the same for commercial and residential. Just let me do a quick analysis, and this is not in these abnormal times. I mean, these abnormal times, if you were to exclude for a second, and I'll address these times as well. But if you were to go back 3, 4, 5 years, Jayashree, you were still at 1.5%, 2% return. But the capital appreciation was perhaps 7 to 9%. So overall return that you were getting was about 10% per annum. 7 to 9% capital appreciation and 1 to 2% you get your rental return. On the office side, you were getting 7-8% the rental return and 2 to 3% capital appreciation every year. So that was also 10%. This was also 10%. Those who wanted rental income went on the commercial side. Those who wanted capital appreciation went on to the residential side. So, it has been attractive for many decades.
And the time period to hold it was exactly the same?
The time period was largely the same because, it was under construction about the same period of time. And I would say is about 5 years is the best time that you continue to hold the property. Today, because there is no capital appreciation, so Jayashree, everybody is asking you and everybody is asking me, why should I buy as an investor a residential property? Because Jayashree, it is 1.5%, 2% with zero capital appreciation. If anything, there may be a risk of moving downwards the property prices. My response to that is that the capital appreciation will come in because the property prices are at its lowest ebb that we have seen, as we started by saying, is that it's perhaps even lower than what the developer's cost is. The second is, Jayashree, if you do it a little eclectically, you will see is that you can get up to 5-6% return. I mean, many of the brands who are in the co-living space, they are providing 5-6% return. So, you do a little bit of it out, you do a bit of servicing, or you lease it to many of these co-living brands. I mean, there's several of them. Oyo is one of them, which is very popular, or Zolo, or Nestaway. You are able to get that kind of return by renting these properties to these corporates. So you are able to get 5.5%, maybe even 6% if you do a little bit of
your returns.
So you're starting to push up your returns.
A lot of investors who come into the property market get emotional about exiting.
Yes.
Don't you agree?
Oh, completely. I completely agree. And I think that is where the folly is. Because you just fall in love with your property, as a result of which, you want to just possess it and hold it, and you don't want to sell it. And that's when you risk the market.
So what should be the exit strategy of a small investor?
For a small investor, I would say is many of the guys are fallen in love with their properties. They perhaps don't want an exit, but if they do want an exit, the best is to be able to lease it out if they are able to with one of these large co-living guys, and then in turn flick it as an investment proposition to another investor who's looking at an income yield. That is the best way to do it. So you buy it today, you plan it in such a way that you're able to bring in one of these operators who is able to give you between, say, 4.5% to 6% return, and then you flick it to an investor who's looking at an annual return.
How important is upcoming infrastructure around your project?
I think it is really, Jayashree, there are 4 or 5 things that I would say for an investor very important to look at before they buy a property. Clearly, as you voiced out, upcoming infrastructure is one of the biggest things. I would also say is in India, probably you'll divide it into A and B, because this word of upcoming infrastructure can be from 1 year to 10 years. We've seen in the past there could be road network, rail network, or electrification of water coming to your premises, and it's been coming and coming and coming, and it's been 10 years, and since till now it hasn't arrived. So you have to be very careful and understand that whilst it is planned infrastructure, would it really happen within the timelines or not? That infrastructure will also mean that is there a social infrastructure that is going to come in, Jayashree? I mean, school is important, retail, leisure, entertainment, places to work. There is, can your kids go to a school nearby? Is there a health facility that is nearby? So one is the physical infrastructure, the second is the social.
So if I'm in my 20s, my 30s and my 40s, or even above that, is my investment pattern the same?
No, it'll change. It'll change on 2 different accounts. One is the ability in money terms to invest. At 20, one may not have that kind of money. At 30, you'll have a little bit more, and 40, you'll have a little bit more. So, clearly the quantum of investment really is different. Second is the stage at which you would want to invest will be different. As at a 20, you may still want to do it in a pre-launch launch. This thing. As you get that much more older, you want to start to de-risk.
Somebody who's between 27 and say 35, right? Should they buy what they can afford, or should they buy what they aspire to hold?
A very interesting question. I think, as a society, we are very risk averse. In my opinion, you need to stretch it a little bit more. Why I say that is because the incomes over the last 2-3 decades in India have only grown. In there is, whether it is with the rate of inflation or perhaps in many times above the rate of inflation. And hence, your ability at this stage to be able to stretch is important. Second, Jayashree, the cost of doing deals is a lot in India. Unlike in some of the mature markets, here your stamp duty, GST, registration, brokerage. So you can't flip it very quickly because it will just undermine the return on that is. So you have to take a little mid to long term view to say is that I'm going to hold this because otherwise I'll have to pay the stamp duty twice, the brokerage twice, the registration twice, and then GST again.
See, in India, we see that maximum 1.5, 2 at a stretch is the number of transactions that most people would have done. You expect that to continue?
I think it'll increase. I think two things that I see in this generation, which is now coming into the workplace, is going to happen. One is, they will start with, say, a 1-bedroom. As they graduate in their life, as their families grow, as they are able to earn more money, they'll go to 2-3-bedroom, 3-bedroom bungalow. The second trend that you will see, Jayashree, is rental housing. I think is a lot of the youth today, whom we're addressing on your TV channel, would not necessarily want to buy. I think is, our generation was very emotionally drawn into buying our first house. I mean, we wouldn't get a bride or a bridegroom if we didn't have a house to ourselves. I think it's a common belief today that, why do I want to buy?
Because they're a very mobile workforce?
They're a very mobile workforce. You've hit it on the nail. Absolutely. Equally, Jayashree, they're marrying late. They're having smaller families. They're very mobile. And hence, they are very much in favor of renting it out than buying.
Do you think that there's smaller personal space want larger public space? The clubs, the lifestyle features are becoming more.
And that's where co-living is doing fantastically well, because they're considering home as a place where you go and you sleep, where you put your head in the evening, in the night, and you sleep. They want to be very social. These guys are really looking at the young generation is a small place to go in there, which is private, which is clean, neat, where they can put their head in the night and sleep. But outside that, they don't want to bring people to their house to entertain. They are saying is, let's go out, let's have these common facilities, whether it's clubs, whether it's public places, whether these are places within the same complex, same building, that they want social places to go and do the activity. Unlike our generation, when we wanted people to come to our house, they are quite averse to that.
What about REITs?
So I have to be careful because I am on the board of a REIT, so I'll be a little protective of what I say. I think it is here to come, and it is a great instrument for the investors to have a look at it.
How soon do you think the Indian market will be ready for that?
I think it's been going on for quite a while. Since 2014, this government made the announcement. I am hoping in the next few quarters, the REITs should come in.
Have policies helped?
Policies have certainly helped. Can they be better? I think yes. And that answer will always be there. Can it be better? Yes. But I think is in the last 4 or 5 years, what we've seen has been just fantastic. There has been a real push for transparency. There has been a real push on the technology, on compliances, on financial governance, on bringing RERA, demonetization, a host of parameters on the policies. There has been a lot of push done at the central level.
So there you are. A good time to buy into property, a good time to invest into property. There is a holding period. You have to be rational and you have to be non-emotional if you are a property buyer. Thank you, Anuj.
Thank you very much, Jayashree. Thank you.
Please subscribe to Magic Bricks on YouTube and click the bell icon to get new videos.